Hello, everybody. My name is Superfox. Welcome back to my channel. So this week we are going to be diving into what it means to be an empath and a highly sensitive person. Because when I discovered what a highly sensitive person really meant, it changed a lot for me and really catapulted me onto my healing journey. So if you are new here, my vibe is all about healing, freedom, and growth. So if you are on one of those journeys in those eras right now, then you are in the right place. Now, this week we have a slightly different setup. We have a brand new podcast microphone. It was time to upgrade. So we are working with a Mac camera. So not my usual full office view today as I figure out all this new stuff. But I wanted to jump on. I wanted to share this with you because it's really been top of my mind. It's really been top of my heart. And I just know how powerful, when we understand the concept of a highly sensitive person, how powerful a shift that can create in you, and how much it did in me and with my clients. So without further ado, let's dive in. So what does it mean to be an empath? Now, a lot of us walk around saying, oh, I'm just an empath. That's the reason I take on other people's shit. Or I've got no boundaries. It's because I'm an empath. Or God, I can just feel the energy in the room. It's because I'm an empath. Now, being an empath has many, many origins. And you could talk about spirituality all day long and our human design types and our enneagram types and all these versions of us that are more predisposed to being an empath on a soul level. What I'm going to talk about today is what it means to be an empath on a nervous system level. So what it means to be a highly sensitive person and how that is probably showing up in your reality and not always in a positive way, but what you can do about it. So a highly sensitive person or an empath is somebody that has deeply feeling experience of the world. So this includes your depth of emotion when it comes to what movies you watch, what conversations you have, what you are willing to look at on the internet, your tolerance for scary things, for sad things, for deeply emotive things will likely be limited, and you'll be controlling and manipulating what you do or don't see under that story of I'm an empath. Now, you're not incorrect, right? You're a deeply feeling person. You feel all the things. But the joy of life is in being able to feel all the things. So the reason we shut ourselves off is because our empathic nature or our highly sensitive nature has led us down a path of burnout. It's led us down a path of dysregulation. It's led us down a path where we're in a situation where we can't handle the ends of the spectrum. So the really scary stuff and the really shit stuff and the really sad stuff. But it also means we can't handle the big joy, the excitement, the proud, the excited moment, and often leads us to kind of stay in this middle ground. And I know this from firsthand experience. I ended up in a situation where I was chasing, and taking on so much for years and years and years. But the truth was, me telling a story about being an empath was actually just the fact that I had no boundaries because I'd never learnt what they were. And my nervous system was completely fried and dysregulated because I'd never learned how to regulate myself. So what was happening was I was taking on all the energies of the world, all the energies of my experiences, whilst having, what I call good girl trauma, working my ass off and, needing to be the best at everything and needing to be perfect, needing to be beautiful and be intelligent, needing to make loads of money and have, this banging social life, like this constant pressure and need to kind of show up and rise up all the time. And so as a result of that, what actually happened was my nervous system just said no more. And so when that happens, your nervous system will keep you in this protective bubble and this very small range of feeling, this very small range of life experience. And actually that will lead to you chasing higher highs. And often people call it dopamine chasing, but lead to higher highs because you're so trapped in this bubble that you think the answer to joy or pleasure or extreme emotions is outside of you. This is also where kind of what a lot of people call destructive or sabotaging behaviors show up, because we're chasing that high outside of us because our nervous system doesn't feel safe to feel it. We'll get it from food, we'll get it from alcohol, we'll get it from drugs, we'll get it from something outside of us, even binge watching TV. But the thing is, we never actually get there. We never get the fix because our nervous system doesn't allow us that breadth. It doesn't allow us that bandwidth because we're ultimately overstimulated because we're highly sensitive. So a highly sensitive person is something I learned from Dr. Linya. I'll link her surname below because I cannot remember for the life of me what it is. But a woman called Dr. Linya who basically pivoted into nervous system medicine. Now, one of the things about the nervous system is we can often get a bit scientific, and me especially because I'm a total nerd. But what I've learned to be true is that your nervous system is the master of your ability to manifest. It's the master of your ability to be present. It's the master of your ability to experience, like I said, the joys of the world, but also the depths of sadness. And so what can happen to a lot of us, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my story and my background, but what can often happen to people is that something really difficult or painful happened. And in that pain and discomfort, we took on so much and we felt so much discomfort in our nervous system because we didn't know how to regulate ourselves, that ultimately what happened is the nervous system shut down. So we went into this state of fight or flight, and then we dropped into freeze, because if we weren't able to move ourselves back into that joy, that connection, that safety, right? And this is kind of, I'm umbrella terming all the things that fall under what's called polyvagal theory, written by a guy called Dr. Stephen Porges. So the concept of polyvagal theory is that you have two parts of your nervous system. We have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So the sympathetic is like your react system. This is the one that keeps you safe. It's the one that keeps you out of danger. It's also the one that fights with your spouse, right? And you have your relaxed system, which is your parasympathetic. But what most people, and I myself definitely did, misunderstand initially is that your parasympathetic is not just your relaxed system. It's your relaxed system and also your shutdown. So the parasympathetic actually has two parts. It has dorsal vagal, which is basically your shutdown response, and it has ventral vagal, which is your connection response or joy. And what we often do is look for behaviors or things outside of us to move us into ventral vagal, so that joy, that connection, that relax. But what actually happens is they move us into dorsal vagal, which is that numb, that shutdown. And so what happens so much of the time with highly sensitive people or empaths is they move between that react system. So they move between that fight flight energy and then into that freeze energy. And they basically just flip between the two. And this shows up massively for entrepreneurs and massively in business, because we're in the hustle, we're in the momentum, we're in the drive, we're like, go, 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 go. And then we're burnt out. So we fall into freeze. And then when we've been there long enough, we think, right, I've got enough capacity now, back into fight or flight. And in neither of those scenarios are we moving into that state of joy and connection and relaxation and abundance. And really, this is where the manifestation magic happens, my friends, because in this energy, we're magnetic. In this energy, we're aligned. In this energy, we're powerful. In this energy, we are, how do I describe it? We're in our body. And when we're in that fight or flight, we're in that dorsal vagal, that shutdown, we're disconnected. Our energy centers are off. We're not aligned. And so we often try to create life from this kind of this pivot between the fight, flight, and then the freeze. And what I now understand about highly sensitive people is absolutely we need more boundaries. Absolutely, we need to learn to master our empathic capabilities. But first of all, understanding why we have it and where it comes from is so important. So this polyvagal theory is a way to explain why you are where you are right now. It's a way to explain the kind of the cycle between the fight, flight, and then into the freeze. But where the highly sensitive person really gets established is when we're young. And guys, you'll hear me talk about being young and childhood trauma a lot. And I will be the first person to tell you that I was so resistant to talking about my childhood in therapy. I was like, my childhood was fine. My parents were amazing. I'm done. And the reality is I had to peel back all the layers in order to feel safe to address some of that. And some of my childhood trauma, and again, I love to remind people that trauma is not a one-time event. It's not a category or a list of things that only fall into a trauma category. Trauma is how safe we felt within the experience of an event. So even if my parents, this is an example I've used with my clients all week, if my parents were arguing over washing powder, right? Oh, you forgot to buy washing powder. I really needed it. Da, 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 da. Or you bought the wrong brand of ketchup. As a young person, my nervous system doesn't know the difference between them arguing about me and that I'm a horrible child and they hate me and they don't love me and they don't want to be with me and that they're going to split up, or you bought the wrong brand of washing powder. So what happens to a young person who doesn't have a subconscious mind, who doesn't have an analytical thinking mind, who can then work out why things are happening or understand what's happening, on a nervous system level, perceives they're unsafe. And so when that happens for the first time, one, it often creates a feeling for the first time of shame, which makes me feel sick now thinking about lots of little kids who just don't know, makes kind of where we feel shame for the first time. Like if that's my fault, how I keep myself safe is by manipulating my behavior so they don't get like that again, right? And this is where the shame response can come in. It also creates this kind of like hypervigilance, this energy of like looking around for safety. So constantly scanning to make sure we're safe. It could be something as simple as like, and I trip over my dogs all the time. Maybe a parent, we got in the way and they tripped over and they hurt themselves and they shouted or made a loud noise. And we think, oh, so we're super hypervigilant to not get in the way. And the thing is, our hypervigilance then doesn't determine between not just getting in the way and everything else is fine. We then become hypervigilant generally. And what this is called is basically dysregulation. So a young nervous system, the way it soothes itself, the way it regulates itself is by that connection and love, right? That ventral vagal, come back to that connection and love. with the primary caregivers. Now, my parents were wonderful. My parents were loving. Lots of parents are, lots of primary caregivers are, whether you had parents or teachers or doctors or all these people that are supposed to care for us. But if we don't have that solid foundation and connection for whatever reason, financial stress, our parents were distracted, there was something going on, we had lots of different siblings, money was really hard. Like, I mean, the list is endless. You could write 10,000 reasons. If that connection isn't upheld, what can happen is a dysregulation in the nervous system. And that dysregulation can even happen from a traumatic birth. It can happen in utero. And so it's not to say that your parents are to blame or at fault. And if you're a parent, you're going to listen to this thinking, holy shit, Luz, thanks very much. But what I'm saying is this happens on a nervous system level. This is not about what we say. It's not about what we tell ourselves. It's not about how many times we tell ourselves we need to calm down and pull yourself together. Like, a nervous system doesn't respond to being talked to, right? On an initial level. Like I said to one of my clients this week, I was like, you can't talk down a saber-toothed tiger, honey. If you're in fight or flight, we've got to address that at a nervous system level. And that is the exact same thing when you're an empath or a highly sensitive person. So we've got this nervous system dysregulation. It's showing up in your life like a lack of boundaries or feeling like you take too much on or burning yourself out. Some of the more unusual ways that being a highly sensitive person can show up in your reality or experience is in sensitivity. So if you've got lots of allergies or you have what's called a lot of autoimmune diseases. So a sensitive nervous system can become a sensitive immune system. A sensitive immune system becomes highly reactive. So it could be that you've got a ton of food intolerances that aren't explained. It could be that you have issues with your gut that go back and forth. It could be that you have a ton of hormonal imbalances or issues with your hormones that feel like you can never overcome them. And it might be that you have a collection of all of these things. And that's what I see most common. What I saw with myself was an underactive thyroid, an underfunctioning liver, side story on that, a poor gut function, hormonal imbalance. And all of these things were showing up around the same time. I had mass food sensitivity. At the same time, I was in a deep state of emotional turmoil because of some things that had happened. And so what you see with a highly sensitive nervous system is it doesn't just manifest in being an empath or being deeply emotional or wanting to protect ourselves from the news. It shows up in lots of areas of our life. And that's because the dysregulation in our nervous system is a dysregulation in the chemistry of our body and how our body talks to itself. So being highly sensitive or empathic is not just about whether or not you can watch a scary movie. In my case, I can't. It's actually more about how that's affecting you on a nervous system level. And one of the biggest things I would say is that we live in a generation in a world where we just want to fix everything. Like, I was a massive fixer. I still am. Like, if somebody's upset or someone I know is like, I've got this problem, I want to give them the solution. And what I've had to really reframe for myself is that people don't come to be fixed. They come to be seen and they come to be heard, right? Which is why I transitioned more into the root cause therapy and more focused on kind of that feeling, that seeing and that healing versus giving them answers to their problems. But what we try to do is we try to fix all the problems individually. So we try to go, oh, I've got a fucked gut, right? Let's go on gut protocol. Or my hormones are imbalanced. Let's take some pills or some supplements. And, you know, I'm not sleeping, so we'll take that. And this is happening at work, so I'll fix that. And actually, there's always a root cause. And the root cause is usually a dysregulation in the nervous system caused by some kind of trauma. And so this is why I like to say, people, I would have told you and swore down I had no trauma. I was like, nothing traumatic has ever happened to me. I was like, I've just been through normal life experiences. Nothing traumatic has ever happened to me. And as I peeled back the layers, what I realized was so much had happened to me. And as a highly sensitive person, if that happened as we were young, we built this highly sensitive, energy around us, we're going to even take on more because, again, trauma is not the event itself. It's how safe we felt within an event. So if you as a young child were highly sensitive, hypervigilant, a dysregulated nervous system, your version of how safe events were was more extreme than the person next to you. This is why two people can be in the same event or same experience and have completely different memories because of the fact that our nervous system, we perceive everything through how safe we feel in that experience or that event. And what happens is when we aren't able to move out of the trauma in the moment, so we're not able to move out of that fight or flight back into that joy and that connection, we drop into that freeze response, or we stay in that fight or flight until cortisol physically is burnt out, right? And in that energy, what then happens is we attach stories. The mind needs to make sense of why we feel a certain way. And so this is where we pick stories up from the outside. Oh, it's just because my job is stressful, or it's because this is happening, or it's because that is happening. And we tell stories about why we are the way we are. And then we give ourselves labels like, I'm an anxious person. I have anxiety, I have this, and we start to label ourselves. And it's not here to diminish the truth of how those things are for you. I just want you to understand that often the anxiety started in the body and the mind attached to the story, rather than a story in the mind and the body responded, although both are totally true and both can happen. So where the labels then get us unstuck is we allow ourselves to be defined by the labels, defined by the label of I'm an empath, defined by the label of ADHD, defined by the label of anxiety, defined by the label of the roles you play in life. And when we're defined by these labels, we keep ourselves in these boxes. And this is why we don't create more. Not because we don't work hard, not because we don't want more, but because we're living in this constant state of dysregulation where our nervous system is moving between this fight or flight and this freeze response. And as a reaction to that, where our energy is dysregulated. Thinking about it from a manifestational point of view, our vibrational field is totally fried, right? The energy in our body is not communicating, it's not connected. So of course we're not healing. And this is why I truly believe that healing the emotional energy of the body, so healing the emotions, healing the energy at that core level, and healing the stories and rewriting the programs of the mind is the key to moving out of this constant state of heightened sensitivity and out of the energy of this kind of like burnt out, exhausted empath and into the energy of this aligned, powerful being. Now, look, I'm not saying you won't be an empath, like you can undo being an empath, and I don't think you can. I think on a soul level, some of us are here to do good work. Some of us are here to care for others. We all have a divine purpose. But if the nature of being an empath is stopping you living the full life that you desire, then the answer is doing the work to bring that regulation and calm to your nervous system and sustaining it. We live in a highly dysregulated world where we are told to hustle. We're told to work as many hours as we can. We're told that effort is a badge of honor. And so you can't just regulate your nervous system one time and be like, okay, cool, I'm healed, I'm done. The truth is we live in this constant world where we have to rewrite the narratives of what it means to be successful or to be happy or to be loved. But we can only do that from the place of a regulated nervous system and from that calm sense of being. Because otherwise we're always just trying to slap an affirmation on some limiting belief that's held deep in our core. And the answer to shifting that deep in our core is going deep, is doing that inner healing work, not hoping and wishing and praying and driving something on the outside. And I hope that makes sense. I know I kind of went off on a piece there, but just what I know for sure is that highly sensitive people need this work more than anyone. Like the level of work I do on myself versus the level of work I do in my business now is like 2 to 1. So I do double the amount of work on myself, whether that is on nourishing myself, how I eat, how I sleep, how I think, my personal development, my deeper work, my body work, my energy healing work, versus how much I work on my business and in my business. And my business makes more money now than it did before. And that's because I'm more magnetic, I'm more powerful, I'm more aligned, I'm more intuitive. And I'm seeing the exact same trends showing up with my clients. Because when they are breaking cycles, or when they are stepping into that healing era, or when they're really unlocking these layers of what the stories and the labels they've attached themselves to, what I'm seeing is the real them step forward. What I'm seeing is them nourish themselves. What I'm seeing is them honor themselves in a different way that allows them to then have the capacity to feel these deeper emotions, to feel the pain they didn't feel back then, to process the experiences they didn't process, so that they make room for new. I'm well known for saying we have to let go of the past in order to make room for the future. The older we are, the more there is to clear. And if you're finding yourself burnt out, fried, unsure, disconnected, or you're constantly seeking something on the outside of you for that next hit, that next fix, the answer is that the next goal, the next level of income is where I'm going to chill out. I promise you the answer isn't out there. The answer is in bringing and using the powers of your sensitivity, the powers of your empathic nature to tap into your deep intuition, to tap into who you know you are. But in order to find that intuition, we have to clear the narratives and the noise of a world that is highly dysregulated, asking more and more and more from us all the time, and bringing that deep sense of healing, not only to our nervous system, but to our soul, to the deeper part of who we are, so that we can step into who we were always meant to be. Highly sensitive people have a purpose on this earth. I know that for sure. They have a purpose to care, give, to love, to lead. And the truth is, highly sensitive people are some of the most beautiful people you will ever meet. But they are the people that are more predisposed to the autoimmune issues, to the pain, to the discomfort, to the anxiety, to the fears, because they feel everything so deeply. So if that is you, I want you to know that you are not alone. I see you. I will drop Dr. Linea's details below. She's very nerdy, so if you like the science, she's there for you. But if right now you are ready to move into your relaxed area, you're like, I am ready to find success from a relaxed place. I'm ready to find abundance from a relaxed place. I'm ready to find that joy and that connection that you're talking about without this constant, always on mentality. And you're ready to move into the era where your health comes first, but not because you make it this obsessive plan, but because actually you nourish yourself from a place of well-being, and that allows you to step forward, that allows you to heal, that allows your intuition to step in, and for you to find that balance that I absolutely know you are seeking. So if that is you right now, then you can join me live on the 2nd of February. I'm doing the Relax Transformation Masterclass live for 2025. It's brand freaking new, getting a total upgrade. So you can get that and join me live, or get the replay if you're a busy bee at lucysuperfox.com/relax. So again, this is a free masterclass. It's completely free. I honestly know for sure how powerful this masterclass is through some of the testimonials I've had from people receiving it before. This work is so insightful. It's allowed me to see myself in a totally different light. I never realized it was like this. So let me talk you through what we are going to be going through in that masterclass. So first of all, I'm going to talk about how to heal from the hustle and burnout and that never enough mindset that's keeping us empty and disconnected. Secondly, I'm going to break down how to heal from the chronic issues you've been battling. And 3, how to create a life of ease through healing and manifestation. And why ultimately, when we really know how to master all of those things, we can move into what I'm calling soft girl success. The era of our life where we get to be successful and powerful, but from that beautiful divine feminine energy, where we're not hustling and striving and anxious and fearful, and we're actually just deeply connected to our intuition, in our power and sure of ourselves. So if that resonates with you and you are ready for that era, you're ready for some soft girl success and ready to bring regulation to your very highly sensitive empathic self, then you can join me on the 2nd of February live, or grab the replay at lucysuperfox.com/relax. So I hope you loved this episode as much as I loved recording it for you. I would always love if you would leave a comment, drop a little subscribe, share this with anybody that you think might resonate with your deeply, highly sensitive and empathic friends. We've got so much more content coming up on what it means to heal, on what it means to build emotional resilience, and what it means to build emotional health. I'm going to be diving into burnout. I'm going to be talking about autoimmune conditions. I'm going to be talking about microdosing magic freaking mushrooms. There is so much coming, and I cannot wait for you to join me. So I cannot wait to see you inside the Relax Transformation Masterclass at lucysuperfox.com/relax on the 2nd of Feb. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to see you on the next one.